the wall, eh? Okay, now you're talking my language.
You ever drunk Baileys from a shoe?
Oh, great. Thanks, Mother, for replacing the baby aspirin with LSD.
How much you want to make a bet I can throw a football over the mountain?
All right, welcome back to the View from C-Deck. It is week 8 gambling time. Ready for the betting lines. It's just me, just Matt this week. As I said in our Buckeye podcast, the Haas and the Direwolf have both been murdered by their bookies for their terrible bets this year, as we all have. I'm just sitting on the ground because my legs have been broken. But we're still going to go ahead and put our gambling picks anyway. And I'm just going to do it myself, though. So it should be a quicker episode because we don't have to listen to the Direwolf ramble on. I'm just kidding. He usually brings way more insight than I do, I think. But that being said, we're going to kick things off with our Buckeyes, as always, since this is the Buckeye-related podcast, The View from C-Deck. Buckeyes 30-point favorites with a 50-point over-under against Iowa Hawkeyes and their sludge fart of an offense. It's just bad for people to watch that. People's eyes, you just want to gouge them out watching Iowa play offense. But it looks good for me to pick the Buckeyes to cover the 30 points. I'm thinking something like 45-6. And I think that also puts us at the over territory, but I'm a little more worried about that just because of how bad Iowa's offense is. This could easily be a 49-0 game, and you miss it. You get the cover, but you don't hit that over. But I'm going to take the over just because I think there's just enough points. And I think the Direwolf does not agree with me. And Jason does agree with me, though. The Haas. Direwolf had it 38-10. He's got the under and the Iowa, but it's not one of his picks for the week. It's not one of my picks for the week either. But it is one of the Haas's picks for the week, so he's confident in both how bad Iowa's offense is and how good Ohio State is as a team. But that's the big noon game. But there are bigger noon games in terms of national pictures, so let's get it going on that. Syracuse and Clemson, both Direwolf and I picked this game, but picked it the opposite way. Both undefeated, though. Syracuse, surprisingly so. Clemson, not so much. The Tigers, 13.5-point favorites at home. Seems high to me. A lot of their two biggest games so far this year, which would be Wake and NC State, were both closer than that. Wake went to overtime. NC State, they beat by 10, but I don't think NC State's any good. I think Syracuse just beat them by 15. Now, granted, NC State's quarterback was hurt. But Syracuse has a good offense, good defense statistically. They're very similar to Clemson. And they look statistically, they're a legit top 25 team, a legit top 15 team. I think they're able to keep it closer. I don't think they win. I think they maybe lose by 10, but I like Syracuse to cover. The Direwolf has the Tigers, I do believe. And, yeah, the Direwolf does. Minus 13.5. We clash, actually, several times, and I can't wait to talk to him about it later on and see what he thinks, especially if I go 3-0 against him. We have 3 games we clash on for our picks. Jason didn't pick this game, though. But, yeah, I just haven't been overly impressed with Clemson. Their offense, it seems like their offense plays well, though, when they need to. Their defense plays well when they need to. They win a lot of games. They're not playing the best teams in the world, but they win their games because they play ball when they need to. But that doesn't mean blowouts. Florida State was also just a 6-point game last week, so it's been a lot of close games for them, and I can expect that to continue. But I do think they'll win. But I'll take the points. Another big game in the noon slot. We got Kansas going to Baylor. Actually, I'm not sure those two teams are ranked, so we're going to just go ahead and skip that game because why would I talk about teams that aren't ranked or in the Big Ten? 3:30 though. There's a lot of big games here at 3:30 time slot. And a lot of games that we picked. We'll start with the big one, though, out west, UCLA at Oregon. The Bruins, who have looked excellent, have 2 big wins over Washington and Utah already. And that Utah win's looking pretty nice now after the Utes took down USC last week. Traveling to Eugene. Oregon's been on fire since they got their absolute asses handed to them on a platter by the Georgia Bulldogs at the beginning of the season. A game that was probably one of those like 59-0 Ohio State-Wisconsin games where everything went right for one team and everything went wrong for the other. But that still they're giving up 6 points. Oregon 6-point favorites at home. I like UCLA a lot getting those points. Chip Kelly going back to Oregon too for such a huge game. It's going to be nuts there. But I love UCLA's physicality. I love the way they play. Their physicality on the offensive line. Their offense, I think, is a legit Chip Kelly offense that can go score against anybody. Oregon's defense has given up 40 points multiple times this year already. They're no juggernaut. They've had good wins that weren't that good in retrospect since they lost to Georgia. I think they're a tad bit overrated there at 10. I never trust Bo Nix, even though he's put up tremendous stats lately, ever since that Georgia game. But I just don't trust him to win big games. UCLA's, I think they're a legit team, and they had a little time off to get ready for this game. So I think they come in focused and ready, and I think they win outright. But getting 6 points, yeah, I'll take that all day. And I don't think it's a weird Vegas like ballsy pick line because Oregon's been so good this year since that loss, and it is in Eugene. And I don't think Vegas quite trusts UCLA yet, because both the Utah game and the Washington game, they were underdogs, and they controlled both those games completely. Like both the final scores didn't end up as wide as the actual game looked in person. So I got UCLA, and I believe the Haas picked that as one of his games as well. Both of those are picked. So Haas is handy, and a junkie handy right there for you guys for that UCLA for the Bruins. Now Ole Miss though at 3:30 also. Ole Miss travels to LSU. I'm 2-0 picking Ole Miss this year, so mark it down. 2 point favorites. I think we had 2.5 though when we picked this. Both the Haas and I put a junky handy with Lane Kiffin going to face off with Brian Kelly. LSU's getting a little more love this week. All of a sudden, LSU's suddenly a good team, even though they got smoked by Tennessee. Their offense finally looks good in a game against Florida. They will only win by 10 though, and I think Florida just stinks. My Utah pick just blew it early in the season there, in that early game in the Swamp. But I got Ole Miss +2. I think they win outright, obviously, but I have a little bit of cushion, which is nice. It's a little bit of a weird line. I think that's why Casey probably took LSU, because it's in that little ballsy pick territory. And maybe he doesn't trust Lane Kiffin to keep the train rolling. But Ole Miss undefeated, 7-0. Looking for a big game against Bama here coming up soon. That could actually knock Bama out of the SEC championship and thusly out of the national championship picture, which would be very nice. 2 thumbs up on that. But all three of us picked this one. Jason and I both pick Ole Miss. I think they're just such a well-rounded team. They've had some closer games against bad teams that they shouldn't have had, but they've also won big games. They already beat Kentucky. And going into LSU is not going to be easy, though. I could definitely see why they're favored because of that, because of the home field advantage, and that Ole Miss can't quite be trusted yet, but I trust them enough to go with them +2. Another 3:30 game. Like, man, you're going to be rolling through your using your last button a lot, which you can't really do on YouTube TV, which is what I use. But Oklahoma State and Texas. Casey's ride or die gambling team, which he bet against this week though, as one of his picks, and this is another one I picked against him. All three of these last three head-to-head games. It's a 6 point spread now, and I'm only giving him the 6. So I'm not giving him the 6.5, as he took Oklahoma State against his own Texas team, who just eked by Iowa State last week. But Texas, big favorites on the road. This is in the ballsy pick territory, I think. Oklahoma State, obviously, a heartbreaking loss last week to TCU in overtime. Blew a 14-point lead. I guess it wasn't huge, but blew the 14-point lead. Their offense, though, still puts up 40. Obviously, they're a good team, but this is letdown territory. Texas didn't play their best game. Haven't really beaten anybody that's that good yet, but they have a bigger A game, I think, than Oklahoma State does. And I do think it's big-time letdown territory. And I'm taking them by a touchdown, something like 42-35 or 41-34, something like that. Sounds pretty good to me. But the Direwolf thinks that Oklahoma State at least keeps it close enough. I'm guessing he's hoping, though, with his real-life over-under season win parlay, that Texas proves him wrong and at least keeps it close enough to get the cover. Another 3:30 game that Direwolf picked. We picked a ton of 3:30 games. That we have two that we picked. I'll just go through real quick. Wisconsin against hosting Purdue. Wisconsin 2.5 point favorites against the Boilermakers. Casey picked Wisconsin. I don't know why. I actually like Purdue to win the West right now. They've had a lot of close games though, but they're getting the points. Wisconsin still hasn't shown. They blew out Northwestern, but who hasn't blown out Northwestern this year? Unless it's been like a tropical storm going on in Happy Valley. And I guess if you're Nebraska with Scott Frost as a coach. But the Boilermakers, I'll take the 2.5 on that one because Ducky Badgers isn't that good this year. Purdue can't necessarily exploit them the same way Ohio State did, but we put up 52. I think they can put up in the 30s against them and keep Wisconsin's running game that's not quite at Wisconsin levels in check. Although with their interim coach, obviously they looked a little better. And it is a little bit of a weird line, but not really. I'll take Purdue. But Casey has that as one of his picks, as one of his Dire Wolf's delights. Wisconsin minus 2.5. Another 3:30 kick I have picked for this week was Wake Forest against Boston College. Wake only giving up 20.5 at home with their spectacular offense they have. Boston College has gotten their doors blown off by basically every team that's any good this year. They've lost by more than 20. And I think Wake Forest is actually pretty good, and it's at home, and it should be good weather. Like this, all points to their offense clicking, and Boston College not being able to keep it close enough, and Wake Forest winning something like 52-21 or something like that. So I'm dropping the points and taking Wake. That's my only favorite of the week is Wake Forest of all teams. I do believe. Let me check that real quick. No, I took Texas, but yeah, Wake Forest minus 20. My biggest favorite pick of the week. What times we live in 2022. All right, we also have quite a few more big games at nighttime. Going in there, we got, I think Bama plays at night, dude, is that right? Oh yeah, we got Minnesota, first one. Minnesota and Penn State. Penn State obviously got their shit pushed in this week by Michigan. Watched a lot of that game. It wasn't even as close as the 41-17 score indicates. They at halftime, they were only losing by 2, 16-14, but it was 17 first downs to 2 first downs. So just getting a lot of big play luck for the Nittany Lions. They are not what I thought they were. I was more worried about them than I was Michigan until this week, and now it's not the case because they got totally dominated up front. And they're playing a Minnesota team that's physical, but has also been struggling. And they've lost a couple straight. Penn State minus 5. I believe that Jason picked this as one of his handies. Yeah, Haas is handy. Penn State minus 5. Oh, man, after watching them get beat up front and Minnesota coming in, getting 5 points, but they've also struggled. But it's been more of like a not so weird struggle for them because they're Minnesota. I'll take Penn State minus the 5 though. Maybe they got to get it right because if they don't and they lose 2 in a row and the Buckeyes come into town, James Franklin's going to start hearing a little bit about that hot seat stuff again, even though he probably shouldn't. But you start losing 3 in a row after they go 7-6 last year because they aren't beating the Buckeyes. Not the way they're built. Sean Clifford does not have it in him to win a huge game. We thought the Auburn game was. That was false. Fool's gold right there. Auburn stinks, it turns out. They're losing to everybody. They're going to go 6-6 maybe because of the rest of their non-conference schedule so easy. Get them the 3 easy wins, and then they get scrounge out 3. But they may miss a bowl game. Auburn may miss a bowl game. So Penn State winning there by 4 touchdowns is actually not that impressive. But I'll take them to their backs are against the wall. They need this. It's a wide out, I do believe. So it should be rocking, and they should be able to hopefully put their defense has to have some pride because 418 rushing yards they gave up to Michigan. Yikes! You can't be doing that. So yeah, I'll agree with Jason and go with Penn State in that one as well. Other night games, somehow I've missed the Bama. There it is. Bama, Mississippi State. Bama minus 21. Dire Wolf's delight here. Because I'm guessing he thinks, he's already said this to me, that now we see Angry Bama the rest of the year. I think we would have already seen Angry Bama you would think, but sometimes you have to lose that game. 2015 Ohio State, it just didn't happen until the second to last week of the regular season. But then you saw them just blow the doors off of a very good top 15 Michigan team and a top 15 or top 10 Notre Dame team after they lost that game. Bama 21-point favorites is pretty big against another ranked team because most of their games have been close against ranked teams, and against teams that are currently ranked, they've all been close. So that is an interesting line. I'm guessing everybody in Vegas is feeling the same way the Direwolf is, though, that we see angry Bama come out, stop the Mike Leach offense from flinging it around. We didn't see anything close to that, though, against Tennessee. There were passing lanes open all day long. But the Bama offense did look great. I think Jahmyr Gibbs may be the best back in the country. I loved him coming out of high school. Ohio State was huge. A lot of people thought he was going to Ohio State until he ended up going to Georgia Tech and staying home, and that's when people started really questioning Tony Alford's recruiting until he got Travion Henderson the next year. But I like him a lot. I think I'm with him. I think Bama – I keep thinking this about Bama, though, that they're going to come out of it, and they just don't this year. And they just haven't, and this will be the last chance I think I give them before I'm out totally on Bama as any sort of a contender for anything. They need to look good this week. If not, they may make it back there to the SEC championship, but they're going to be playing a team that's just better than them. I think in either Tennessee or Georgia at that point if they are eking out wins. Georgia's got a top 5 offense and top 5 defense. Only one other team, Ohio State, has that going for them, and Tennessee obviously has the second best offense, if not the best offense, right there. 1A with Ohio State, 1A, 1B. Their defense is good enough now. They did take a lot of luck, though, for Bama to not win that game, and obviously a long missed field goal, though. Definitely wasn't a gimme. I wouldn't be too hard on the kicker for missing that one. But minus 21, I think they do it. Because I think Mike Leach teams always have these games where you think they're kind of a good team and then they get their doors blown off and you're like, oh, crap. So I'm going to go with Bama too, but the Direwolf has that. So to a quick recap of our picks for the week. But Jason and I have UCLA +6 against Oregon. I have Syracuse +13.5. Ole Miss +2, Texas -6, and Wake -20.5. Casey has Wisconsin -2.5, Clemson -13.5 going against me, LSU -2 going against me, Oklahoma State +6 going against me. What the F, man? And Bama -21. Jason's UCLA +6, TCU -3.5, Ole Miss +2 as well, Penn State -5, and the Buckeyes -30 over the Hawkeyes. I like his picks, mainly because a couple of them agree with me. And I think we have a good week ahead of us, and I think we're all very close in the standings of our picks, but I'm not exactly sure where that is right now because I'm too busy groveling and running away from my bookie to not take all my money. I gotta feed my baby. I have a 7-month-old. It's okay. Please don't do it, sir. So last thing is we always do here is our playoff thoughts if we've changed them, and I think I have after the Tennessee-Bama game last week. I think I have Tennessee in now. And I think there's going to be 2 SEC teams almost for certain now. Just because, even though I'm a little bit of a UCLA believer, I still don't know if they run the table. I don't know if they beat USC. They just haven't done it in so long that I can't see them going undefeated. So, right now I'm saying Ohio State and Clemson both go undefeated, mainly because of Clemson's schedule. But it's going to be hard for Ohio State. That game against the team up north is no joke now. That was a very nice performance. They look like this very similar team as last year. Maybe not quite as good up front, but they're still pretty dang good up front. And the running game is nasty I'm not overly impressed with McCarthy still at quarterback, either as a runner or a passer. He can run. He's athletic. But it's like Trace McSorley athleticism, where it's if you have an athletic defense, you're going to out-athlete him. But if you're not, if you're on your P's and Q's, now if you're not, he can definitely hurt you. But Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum are a very legit 1-2 punch. Corum reminds me a lot of a J.K. Dobbins. Small but powerful, very agile, doesn't go down easy as you think he would, but has enough open field speed. Not necessarily the home run speed, but he's got enough open field speed to really gash you. And then Edwards is like James Cook from Georgia last year, does everything well. Great pass catcher out of the backfield. Quick, maybe not the biggest guy, but he's quick enough, and he's again strong enough to not just go down on first contact. They look pretty legit, but if we can match them up, and I think their offensive line, just looking at them, they're a very impressive group. They don't seem to have the big fatties going on there, and they could give Ohio State a lot to handle. I think our offense is still good enough though to get by them. So I still have Ohio State in, Clemson in, then 2 SEC teams. I think it's going to be Georgia and Tennessee. I'm not sure exactly how we get there. I'm not that huge of a believer in Bama, but it could be Bama and Tennessee. It could be Bama and Georgia. I just think it'll be 2 of those 3, because I think with SC going down, I don't think TCU runs the Big 12 like that. They still have Texas. They still have the Big 12 championship game. Obviously, they have a big game this weekend with Kansas State. That's one we didn't talk about, actually. But, yeah, Jason has TCU -3.5. I think Kansas State actually keeps that one close enough. Duggan's good, but this is a lot of big games in a row, and for TCU to stay up against a good team, and Kansas State's coming off a bye, I believe. But anyway, I just don't see TCU getting through it undefeated either. UCLA would have to go undefeated. They're not going to. I think both Big 12 and Pac-12 get bounced out, not having undefeated champions. And I think an extra SEC team gets in. I think they end up as like a 3-4 seed or maybe a 2-4 seed, because they're not going to face each other either way. And then 2 and 3 doesn't matter. So it could be, who wouldn't want to see Ohio State versus Tennessee in the 1-4 game, and then Georgia versus Clemson? That would be some nice fresh matchup for everybody involved, and I think there's a good chance that happens. But that's all I have for this week. This has been our Week 8 Gambling Lines here at The View from C-Deck. I'm just Matt. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, comment, tell us why I'm so wrong about Bama and they're actually the best team in the country still. It was just bad luck. Or tell me why Ohio State is going to beat everybody, especially Michigan, by 30. Please, to my sweet, sweet ears. I'd love to hear that. Follow us on Twitter at View from C-Deck, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.
Hey, guys. Whoa, big gulps, huh? All right. Well, see you later.
A rich man's world.